so stately, a veteran of the state Senate. Senator Edwards, good to have you with us.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me. I saw you last night at the game, and there was a good game, wasn't it? It was a lot of fun.
It was a really good game, and the House breaking your 3-game winning streak,
That's
although
right.
you guys cheated with reckless abandon. I tell you what, I would fire Emmett Hanger as coach. He got out-coached by Chris Jones last night.
Yeah, but both sides had some NBA players. last year, in the last few years, we've had some Redskin players. D'Angelo Hall would come down and bring some of his buddies. That he's, Senator Louis Lucas's nephew. So he didn't come this year, unfortunately. So we had some NBA people on both sides.
Yeah, it was a pretty interesting game. But I think, I made a recommendation after last night that it go back to the old way, where it's just Senate and House people playing. And they say, the Senate's too old. I'm like, no, you guys got Jeremy McPike, right?
Yeah, right. That's true. We do have some young people.
You got Studevant.
Yeah.
Studevant's a good ball player.
Yeah. And Suderline, he played well. Yeah.
Yeah, Suderline played good. And Chap Peterson, he scored 6 last night. He did good.
Yeah, well, Chap is the one that kind of organizes it all every year. So we had a good time. It was a lot of fun to watch.
He's a good ball player, and I didn't think Scott Servo got enough playing time. I think he got screwed last night.
Well,
we'll
talk about that.
We got to get him back in. Okay, let's get to some of the things going on. I want to start with Terry McAuliffe's compromise on the gun legislation. Senator, I know that you were a co-patron with Senator Reeves on getting rid of reciprocity. You were also instrumental in getting, as part of the compromise, Senator, the piece on voluntary, and that's a big word for gun owners, voluntary background checks at gun shows. Mm-hmm. Are you comfortable now that this compromise is the right thing to do?
Yeah, yes, I am. Absolutely. I supported the compromise. My voluntary background check bill, where the state police would be there to do a background check for an individual sale to an individual on a voluntary basis. I think I've been pushing this since 2008. I've talked to people who go to gun shows, a lot of my friends. They think it's a good idea. A lot of them they say, look, there's somebody I'd like to sell to, but I don't know them. I feel uncomfortable. If this person goes out and uses it improperly, then maybe I could be liable. So they've thought it was a good idea for a long time, and the NRA supports voluntary background checks, and so I put it in several times before. Last year, actually, I didn't put it in. The governor actually suggested it, but it actually passed the courts committee and went to finance and got killed. But this year, I put it back in as part of the compromise. I was going to put it back in anyway. In fact, I did, I believe, even before we talked about the compromise. And the idea, again, is to, at a gun show, the dealers, of course, do background checks. Individuals sell. They really don't do background checks. A lot of them don't even know you can get a dealer to do it if you want. Nobody does it, or I've never seen anybody get a dealer to do a background check because it's a consignment sale. The dealer has to go through some trouble and keep records and so forth. So it's not something that people widely do. But with the state police there, it's available. And if somebody says, I'd like to sell to you, but hey, let's get a background check. It's not that expensive. It won't take too long. And one of the benefits to the seller is that if the person passes the background check, then they're immune from any liability in the event that person later goes off and does something bad. Nobody could, of course, you would have trouble suing them anyway unless you knew or should have known the person was prohibited from getting a gun. But this would, at least under the law, under this new bill, protect the seller from giving them immunity in the event, the unlikely event, that somebody was not proper and a prohibited person and goes off and does something that's would be bad. So I think it's a good bill. It's something I've been talking about for a long time. We thought we had it wired together to get it through in 2013, but it fell apart. That's the way gun compromises are hard to get here in Richmond. Unfortunately, the sides are so divided, and so both sides sometimes tend to like to play politics with this issue.
Right.
Unfortunately, but I have a district that makes me in a position where I can understand both sides. And I told people last fall when I was campaigning, if there's a compromise to be made, I'm the guy that can probably work it out. In fact, I always thought the voluntary background check at gun shows was a compromise. In fact, I think it turned out to be a compromise. But getting people to sit down at the table and work it out is a problem. The idea of the reciprocity agreement, I signed on to Senator Reeves' bill because I heard so many people complaining with the Attorney General's opinion that they'd be afraid to go to another state with a Virginia concealed weapons permit if that state didn't recognize Virginia's concealed weapons permit. And so I thought something needed to be done, and then it became quite political. And I'm glad the governor signed on to this compromise because it protects Virginians traveling to other states, and so that we'll make sure we'll have some kind of reciprocity agreement with those states that do have reciprocity agreements. Not all states do, of course, but it does protect Virginians. And nobody can point out how people have come to Virginia with a concealed weapons permit from another state and done something bad. Most people recognize that those with a concealed carry permit are able to are typically law-abiding citizens, and rarely is there someone that commits a crime. But in any event, we worked that out. There's also Senator Janet Howe's bill was part of the compromise. If somebody has a protective order against them, then they have to give up their guns. So I think there's a good compromise all along. The papers have been talking about who won, who lost. I think Virginia won. It's not a matter of who won, who lost, the right, the left, the governor, the NRA, or whatever. But it's good for Virginia. I'm glad to be part of that compromise. And most editorials, from the Washington Post to the Roanoke Times to throughout the state, and most of the editorial writers have been saying this is a good compromise for Virginia. So I'm glad to be part of it.
Well, look, I think at the end of the day, you guys did the right thing. It's good legislation, and I love the voluntary background check end of it at gun shows. I mean, that's a real loophole. I think the way you solved it is voluntary is voluntary. I know that if I've got a gun collection, I decide to go and sell that, I'm not bound to doing a background check for the buyer. But if I've got a state policeman there, and you know what, there's a lot of people there, and I'm saying to myself, I'd sleep better at night if I knew this person was legit. I would just get a better night's sleep.
That's right.
I'm going to go ahead and do that. But if I don't want to do it for whatever reason, I've got something, constitutional rights or whatever, and I don't want to do it, then fine, don't. But I think that having the voluntary option, there's a lot of things that go bad when a hospital closes. Also, it's tougher to get businesses to come in because hospitals are too far away. So there's a quality of life issue. What have you done there in order to take a hard look at why that happened, and what are you going to do to prevent it from continuing to happen?
Well, that's a really good question. There are about 350 or so employees there. It's been there for a long time. It's not only important to the economy of our region, but from a mental health standpoint, it's one of the few hospitals that has very severely mentally ill patients. And the judges send people there because of mental illness. And between Marion, where there's one, and Stanton, there's one in Roanoke County, and it's about 200-mile difference between Marion and Stanton. So it's particularly important for the mental health community. And the judges, I had one of the juvenile judges send me a letter explaining how important Catawba Hospital is to our region in terms of mental health. This particular judge orders defendants often. She's a general district court judge. I shouldn't have said juvenile, but general district court judge. She orders defendants from time to time to go to the hospital. A lot of them are committed there. They're under lock and key. They have 60 geriatric patients who can't be anywhere else, really. Then another 50 or so who have been ordered by the court to be there. Many of them very difficult, some of them quite dangerous, and they need to be in a place. They cannot be in the community. People say, well, let's deinstitutionalize them, put them in the community. Well, they don't have any place in the community to put them, for one thing, nor has the state come up with an option. The state even acknowledges we have not come up with an option outside of Catawba. So I say, why are you shutting it down? And they say, well, it's old. I say, okay, it's old, but it's in good condition. It's, in fact, very good condition in terms of its capital the buildings and the fact that the state has put about $12 million of capital expenditures into it over the last several years. And the consultants, what really was irritating was the consultants who recommended shutting it down didn't even come and take a look. They didn't even come to Catawba and walk around and talk to the people who work there. I've been there off and on over the years, and I'm fairly familiar with it. And it's in very good condition. They recently put a new roof, new windows. You know, they've upgraded over the years. And if you shut it down, there's no alternative. Plus, why shut it down? It's licensed for 270 beds. 110 beds are being used now. I say rather than shutting it down, that use it more often. And it's in a great location. The people who work there love it. The residents who are there, patients, whatever you want to call them, they seem to be very happy too. They even like the food. Went down there and they said, you know, the food is so good. The residents really like the food. So it's a well-run facility, and it's also being used as a teaching hospital by Carilion, by the School of Virginia Tech Carilion School of Medicine, by the VCOM in Blacksburg, by the West Virginia University Medical School, by the Jefferson College of Health Sciences, by Radford University's nursing program, I understand. And so it's being used as a teaching hospital on a regular basis. So there's no reason to shut it down. And I was very disappointed that the recommendation came. And on a bipartisan basis, we've been fighting that. I put in a bill to yank the $1 million in the governor's budget to plan to shut it down. And the Senate budget did. They adopted my budget amendment, so $1 million is not there anymore. And I've been talking to Senator Emmett Hanger, who's my desk mate. He's a co-chair of the Senate Finance Committee from Stanton, from Augusta County. And he has announced that we have no plans now to shut it down. And the state, and for one thing, the Finance Committee and the Appropriations Committee in the House has said, look, if you want to shut these down, have a plan first, and then we'll go back and see let's talk about shutting it down. But I don't think Catawba ought to be shut down any time in the foreseeable future.
All right, we'll keep working on it because it means jobs and economic impact of the area. We're out of time. 8:58. I want to thank State Senator John Edwards for being with us. District 21, Southwest Virginia. Senator Edwards, thanks. We appreciate that insight, and keep fighting for Catawba Hospital.
I will. It. Thank you, John.
All right, we'll see you soon.